So this is an electric zip line for filmmakers and content creators. It's designed to turn your smartphone into your own personal camera crew, enabling you to capture smooth camera movements that look like something straight out of a Hollywood film. So in this video, I'm going to be putting this thing to the test. My aim is to capture enough shots to create a short cinematic sequence that looks like it's been shot with an entire production crew, when in actual fact, it's just been shot by me using a phone. Is this even possible? Let's find out. Hey everyone, Steve here from Learn Online Video, and today I am at this incredible location here in the southwest of England where I want to see what's possible when it comes to shooting solo B-roll. No fancy camera crew with me today, just me and my camera bag. A big thanks to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this video. This is where I'll be getting all of my music and sound effects to really help bring these shots to life. Now, let's jump straight in and I'll show you how this thing works. Okay, so this is the Wyral Lite. This is an electric cable cam designed for filmmakers and content creators, and the way it works is simple. You tie one end of this rope to something secure, a tree, a telephone pole, a giant rock. You do the same with the other end and you pull it tight. You then attach the Wyral like this, as well as your camera. Now, you can use just about any camera, but for simplicity, I'm going to be using a smartphone. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because by using this remote, we can now send our camera up and down this rope. This could very well be one of the best and most unique tools for solo filmmaking, and it costs less than 350 quid. But let's find out exactly what it's capable of and start shooting some footage. Okay, so this is our first location. Let's set the scene and capture an opening shot to this sequence. I'm going to use this old fallen tree to climb across, attach one end of the rope up here and the other end down here, then walk along this path as the camera rises up. If you do try capturing shots like this, by the way, please make sure that you do it safely. Start somewhere safer. You could just use a lamppost, but this is going to make a great shot. Okay, so we've attached this strap to the tree and we've attached our rope to the strap. We've now got to get this rope down there, and the easiest way to do this is to simply throw it. Okay, with the rope now down, I'm now going to attach it to one of these tree roots like this. Make sure it's pulled nice and tight, and we now have a rope going all the way up to this tree at around about a 45-degree angle. Now, I want a nice wide shot for this to really help establish the scene. I'm shooting in 4K 60 frames per second for this, by the way, and I'm going to get myself into position and start walking whilst the Wyral does its thing, slowly making its way up this rope. Let's take a look. Okay, not looking bad. I'm pretty happy with that for an opening shot. Now, a little tip here, and something that I always like to do, especially when shooting solo, is also capture a shot of myself walking back, because this will really help maximize your shots. With this zip line, it's the setup that takes the time, not actually capturing the shots themselves. So the more shots that you can get from one setup, the better. Okay, so far so good. Now let's move on to the next location. Okay, now the key to any good sequence is a good mix of shots. So for this next setup, I want to try something completely different. So I've attached the rope to this tree here, going all the way over there, with the camera much lower to the ground this time. I want to use this grass as foreground to add much more depth and interest to this shot. So I'm going to start all the way over there and walk forwards towards the camera as the camera smoothly slides through the grass. I'm also going to use my telephoto lens for this, so much more zoomed in compared to the first shot for a completely different look and feel. Okay, so I'm going to walk over this way, get myself in position, remote in hand, and I'm simply going to walk towards the camera. Now, I really hope that this shot has a good sense of movement and depth. It should do, because we've got our foreground, midground, and background. So fingers crossed, we've got another great shot to add to this sequence. Let's take a look. Okay, looking good, but again, let's maximize our shots using this one setup. We've got a shot facing that way. Now let's turn the camera and face the other way. Let's start thinking about storytelling. If I can grab a shot of myself walking towards these woods like this, for the next scene, we can capture some shots in the woods. Now we're linking one scene to another. Also, whilst we're at it, let's grab a shot walking back towards the camera like this. Okay, so again, using the same line, let's maximize our shots. We've got a shot facing that way. We've got a shot facing that way in the opposite direction. Let's get one this way, a close-up shot this time, and I'll walk towards the camera as it tracks this way, a close-up shot of the legs and feet walking through the grass. So we now have 4 shots using the exact same line, but here's a power tip, especially for anyone that's running low of shots when it comes to the edit. Try mirroring or flipping your shots. For example, we've got this original shot here, but if I jump into my editing software and flip the image, we now have this shot here, which gives it a completely different feel. And obviously this won't work with every shot, particularly if you've got text or anything like that that gives the game away. But if you're at a location like this, flipping your shots can be a real lifesaver when it comes to the edit. Okay, we are making great progress. Now let's head into these woods and see what shots we can get. I just realized I called this place the woods. This is actually a forest. Look at this place. This is beautiful. This is zipline heaven. Okay, so here we are in the forest, and as you can see, it's a completely different look and feel, so a really great way to keep this sequence feeling fresh. An abundance of trees to tie our rope to, so let's get set up and start capturing some shots. I'm going to go for a slightly longer line with this one. We've got 50 meters worth of rope to play with, so let's make the most of it. I'm really not the best at tying knots. I pretty much fudge it every time, but as long as the zip line works, I'm happy. I couldn't get the rope as tight as what I would have liked with this shot. You can see this by how much it sags when the Y-roll moves down it. Not ideal, but good enough for now. Now for this scene, I'm basically just walking parallel to the line and mixing up the shots as much as possible. I'm using both the wide angle and standard lens for this, as well as repositioning the camera to get shots from the side, the front, and behind. Hopefully, this will give the appearance that this scene is being shot with multiple cameras. Let's take a look. Okay, so far I'm really happy with how these shots are turning out, but one thing that I am noticing is that it's really hard to keep a level horizon, especially when the camera starts to rise up slightly. Things start getting a little bit ski-whiff. Now I can of course correct this in post-production by keyframing a rotation to keep the shot level, but it certainly isn't ideal. So what I'm thinking is, what if I were to attach a gimbal to the zip line? That would not only help get a much smoother shot, but it would also help keep that shot level. I've got a couple of gimbals in the car that I could grab after our next location, but hold that thought for now, because our next location has a waterfall, and I'm really hoping that I can get the zip line up really high and fake some drone shots. So let's head there now and get set up. Now this shot definitely wasn't easy, it took a little bit longer, but I did manage to get the rope to go from this tree here, going all the way across the river and over to here. Nice and high up, this one. This is the highest shot of the day. I want some sweeping shots pushing forwards towards the waterfall. Also, another great way of really selling these shots as drone shots is to get some overhead shots pointing directly down and flying over your head. If you see a shot like this, chances are you're going to think that it was shot using a drone, not a smartphone. So a really great way to add some more production value to these shots. I'm going to grab some shots using the wide angle lens. This will make it feel much more like a drone shot. I'm going to get some shots pushing through these leaves as I walk up this hill. Now again, all of these shots are being used from the same line. We're simply just moving and repositioning the camera each time to change the angle and perspective. Okay, so I've come back to the car to grab a gimbal. I've got a couple with me today, but the one that I'm going to go with is this one here. This is the DJI Osmo 6, and there's a couple of reasons I've chosen this gimbal. The first is look at the size of this thing. It is tiny, it's small, compact, and lightweight. Sorry, I've just had a little visitor. There he is, look. What are you up to, buddy? Where are you going? He's come to see what's going on. And the second reason I've chosen this gimbal is that it's got incredibly good AI tracking with gesture control. This is going to come in really useful when it's on the zip line. So with my smartphone and gimbal attached to the zip line, I'm now able to hold up my hand like this, and the gimbal will know to track me and keep me in the center of frame. I've just been capturing a few test shots with this setup to see if this thing even works, and I'm actually really surprised by how well it's working. I've tested a variety of different shots, some where the camera whips past me and pans as it goes, others where I walk and stop. I've also tested different speeds. This thing can actually travel at 35 kilometers an hour in sport mode, but I crashed it, so I think I'll just keep it in normal mode for now. And look, I'm really happy with this setup because we now get much more dynamic camera movements. The camera now pans, tilts, all whilst going up and down this zip line. I think we're really onto something here. The smartphone gimbal zip line setup is now by far one of my favorite ways to capture solo B-roll, but these have just been test shots. I'm not a huge fan of this location. It's not particularly interesting, so let's save this setup for the final shot of this sequence and go out with a bang. So I'm going to put the gimbal away for now, and we're going to move on to our next location, because at the next location I've got a few ideas that I think will really help raise the production value of this sequence. Now, one thing that I think this sequence is missing, and something that I really want to try out, is pushing the camera and zipline through something, some kind of tight space, because this will not only emphasize the movement, but it'll also make much more of a unique shot. So here's the idea. I'm going to send the zipline up between this tree and these rocks. I'm going to attach the rope to this tree here and send it all the way up there so that the camera then flies past me as I climb between this tree and these rocks. No gimbal needed for this shot. I'm just going to have it as a locked off shot facing forward, and we can now send it up and take a look. Okay, I'm happy with that. That shot is looking great. Now, as always, I like to get multiple shots with the same setup. So I'm going to get one more as the camera comes back down. I'm really liking these shots so far. This is definitely one of my favorites. I love the look and feel of this shot as the camera pushes through these trees and rocks. Also, I actually really like that the environment is quite busy. Not only does this add more interest and depth to the shot, but it also does a really good job of hiding the rope. The rope is actually in shot here, but it's just not obvious. Okay, as always, let's make the most of this one setup. I'm going to grab another shot walking from left to right at the top here, and I'm also going to spin the camera round so that we get a shot pointing to the left, sliding up as I walk towards the camera. And yes, the camera very nearly hit me in the face with this one, but hopefully this just adds a bit more interest to the shot and helps keep the audience engaged. Okay, we are so close to having everything that we need to create this final sequence, but one thing that we're definitely missing is an end shot, some kind of hero shot. Now, typically with an end shot, the camera would pull away, leaving the scene rather than push forward. So that's definitely something that I would like for this sequence. Okay, so here's the idea. I'm going to stand on the edge of this rock here and somehow try to get my line up here, going all the way over there attached to that tree, so that the camera can then pull away as I look out from the top of these rocks. So now I have to somehow get my rope all the way to the top of this tree. Okay, now this did take a little while, but eventually I was able to swing and toss the rope over the top of this branch.
Come on, I got it. There it is, going all the way up there.
And with the line now tight and secure, I'm going to add the zip line and the gimbal. All right, this is it, last shot of the day. Let's make it a good one. I'm going to enable the AI tracking and then walk up to the edge of these rocks as the camera pulls away, tracking me as I go, keeping me in the center of frame for the ultimate end shot to this sequence. Let's take a look. Okay, so we definitely have enough shots now to create a sequence, and I'm really happy with how this has turned out so far visually, but a really important aspect of this sequence is going to be music and sound effects. With all of these shots being captured on a smartphone using the internal microphone, the audio is going to sound terrible. So I'm going to completely scrap all of the audio from the smartphone and sound design this sequence from scratch. And for this, I'm going to head over to Epidemic Sound. I want to find a track that's going to work well with this sequence. The camera is moving quite fast for most of these shots, and I'm constantly moving, so I want to track with a high tempo. I don't mind if it starts slow and ends slow, but the majority of it, I want it to be relatively fast paced. So I'm going to look for some cinematic music. The beauty of Epidemic Sound is that all of their tracks are really easy to find. You can search by mood, theme, or genre. I'm also going to download any sound effects that I think will really help bring this sequence to life. Some footsteps walking through the woods, some birds chirping, the sound of a river flowing. All of this is going to add extra layers of interest to the final edit. Epidemic Sound have a huge archive of music and sound effects, so if you haven't tried them yet, I will put a link to a free 7-day trial in the description below. Okay, so we've captured all of our shots, some with just a zip line, some with a gimbal and a zip line. We've added music, sound effects, I've added a color grade, so let's take a look and see the results. Okay, so what did you think of that sequence? I'm really curious to get your thoughts. If you hadn't have seen all of the behind the scenes, do you think you would have just assumed that that was shot with an entire production crew using multiple cameras? Or could you tell that it was shot completely solo using a smartphone? Do let me know in the comments section below. And for those of you that are new to smartphone filmmaking and would like to learn the basics of shooting cinematic B-roll fast, then I have a 2-hour course that covers everything perfect for beginners. I will also link that below. But that's it from me. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you as always, and I will see you in the next one.